the Red Sox winning the World Series? We talk about this and more with Lucy Burdge on this episode of the Locked On Red Sox podcast.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast. And thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, Jake Ignaszewski. And today we are joined by a very special guest in BetQL's Lucy Burdge, who at each and every single Red Sox win, she tweets Red Sox are winning the World Series. And she's also tweeted in the past, the Red Sox are good. She's one of the most positive people in the Red Sox community. And her and I talk about why this team is different from others, why you should be excited about them, and why you should be convinced that the Red Sox are good. Let's get into my conversation with Lucy. I am here with Lucy Burdge. And Lucy, the first question I got to ask you, are the Red Sox going to win the World Series?
See, I thought, Jake, this would be the first question. And the answer, of course, is yes. They are going to win the World Series. I was just, as a matter of fact, looking at their odds to win the World Series, and there are quite a few teams that have worse odds. Although there are some teams that are, more teams that have better odds. But you know what? That's okay. They're at plus 8,000 right now, and that's not the worst. So yes, they are. As of right now, I would say yes, they are going to win the World Series.
And I feel like you make those tweets when like fans need it most. And like, especially, I think it was, even 21 and last year as well. I always try a quote tweet and just be like, manifest it, like put it out in the universe. We got to get the positivity out there.
You were one of the first people who started quote tweeting them and say, put this out there, manifest it. Because that's what it was. I started in 2021, just tweeting it at the beginning of the season. It was April 2021, tweeting that out every time they won, and still do it every time they win. And now it's just kind of like throw it out there. But I do believe there is something special about this year's team. But that year, when they made it to the ALCS, I started kind of freaking out, being like, is this working? Is this actually happening? Like, could they actually? And they were so close to actually making it to the World Series. And can you imagine if they actually had won it that year? Would have been really nice. Last year clearly didn't work out too well. And I stopped tweeting it around like August. It started to be just too sad to even tweet. And I would start tweeting they're going to win another game. And that would be the tweet. But this year, I wouldn't rule it out. So it's going to manifest it. And if we all believe, maybe if we all just chant it together, then maybe it will actually happen and build up that momentum.
And I feel like, this week compared to last week, there's a lot more positivity surrounding the team. That was one thing, Lauren and I last week, I said to her starting every single episode, like, let's try to have like a positive tone. Like, let's try our best. And then we ended up going down like a little bit of like rabbit holes and negativity. I'm like, wait, let's reel it back a little bit. And, at the end of every episode, I say, keep the faith. I started that this past season because going back to 2004, even though, I was 5 years old or whatever, like
that is, wait a minute, stop. Were you actually 5 years old?
Yeah. I told Lauren this, our first episode, and she was like, I didn't realize I was 10 years older than you.
Oh my God. Well, I
was born in 99.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So I was turning, well, I wasn't that much older in a sense. I was turning 2004. I was turning 13 that year. So I was 12 when they won it. So that's not the big, I mean, in numbers wise, it's not the biggest difference from 5 years old, but I do have a older memory of it, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, so like I tried to tie that in because fans, I felt like, needed faith this year. Like there needed to be a reason to have faith. And then this past week I added stay positive, and then I always end it like let's go Sox. And that's one thing that I feel like, especially after last night's game. I mean, that was honestly the first time I had uncontrollably been like, let's have it go. Like the last time I felt that way was in 21.
Yeah. Last night, I think, was the first time in, I don't even know how long, that I actually tweeted the F word. Can you believe it? On Twitter, posted it on Maine.
Well,
at the same time, Verdugo did the same thing on live television. So it was
I feel like he gave you permission. He gave you permission.
That's what I thought. And it was that kind of night, though, where it was like this, you have to be kind of unhinged because this team, there is something about this team. I am telling you, with these walk-off wins, they're finding a way to win. That's all you need. All you need at the end. It doesn't matter how you play. I mean, it does, of course. But when you look at how the season goes. What matters is if you win the game, and if they're finding ways to win, then it's going to work out. And if they're doing that, then that's all you can ask for a team that coming into this season. I don't know about you, Jake, but it is driving me absolutely nuts when people say, but just blanket statement, the Red Sox suck. The Red Sox suck this year. Okay, well, people even say that after they win a game. They've won 9 games this year so far.
Right.
Last year in April, do you know how many games they won in all of April? 9 games in all of April. They are already, if let's say they win another game this month, they have already starting to outpace how they did last year at the beginning. So I'm not giving up on them, but I think the core of being a Red Sox fan is to be a masochist and to be negative. And that's what I love about it. And I love embracing the negativity. And that's why when they do actually suck, which they don't right now, there's a little part of you that like not enjoy it, but you get to like lean into the negativity and complaining, which sometimes is kind of fun. And you get to take a bath in it. And it's a little bit fun to complain and to listen to sports radio callers in this city just complain about it. And that's a little bit fun. But right now, you can enjoy that this team is not at rock bottom, even though they're at the bottom of the standings in the division. But you know what? Stay positive, I think is a great motto.
I think that like that fueled negativity sort of makes games like those walk-offs be that much more gratifying. Like I was like clapping and screaming at the TV after Kike had a strikeout, drop third strike, and I thought in my mind, I can't believe I'm like actually like clapping and like getting this excited over a strike 3. And that I was on the edge of my seat, and it kind of reminded me too last year, even though we're talking about baseball with the Patriots, when Zappy came in and threw that ball to Jacoby Myers and he made that diving catch. That was the first time I was screaming at the TV and just like feeling the cockiness of the hate us because you ain't us sort of like New England cockiness feel.
Yep, exactly. Zappy fever. Can't wait for that again. But now it's the fever of it's Verdugo fever. It's like Verdugo Sox. But after that game, you get that sense that this team can pull off these wins, and that's not a bad team. And people are like, oh, but even today, seeing it on Twitter, people being like, oh, what the Red Sox suck. They just won. So it's really tough to argue that this team sucks, because you look at how many of the batting averages are, let's say, below the Mendoza line. That's one thing. But they're winning games again. And people are like, oh, but there's always a but. But they're playing a team that sucks. But they're playing they did get swept by the Pirates, and they did. But okay, this is their schedule, though. They're playing their schedule, and they're winning games. So don't tell me that this team completely sucks. And it's just it gets really annoying. And you don't respond to the haters then in those cases.
Also, the other thing too that like I've brought up throughout the beginning of this season, which is it's crazy that in my mind how we're talking about it feels like we're already in July, but it's only been happening for like 2 weeks. Maybe it's just because we've been yearning for like real baseball to start and for us to actually be able to root for things and not overanalyze spring training games. But it's getting to a point right now where the depth. You can only have so much depth. And I find it's hysterical, the amount of injuries that are piling up. And they're like, well, if I'm got actual depth, I said last week, I bet Chaim Bloom is thinking, how much more can I do? How much more depth can I really get? And, we're lucky that there's an Manuel Valdez who's able to come up and be able to fill in at second base. We're lucky that there's a Cutter Crawford who's able to go 6 innings after Brian Bayo blows up. We're lucky for those things.
Run.
Yeah, exactly. And pinch. I thought that was so odd.
Oh, I see. One of my favorite things is when players play in positions that you would never expect them to play. Like when Jackie Bradley Jr. pitched last season, or say when Cutter Crawford pinch runs. That's some of my favorite things. And so that was last night was, as one account tweeted out, it was like a movie. Last night was like a movie. And that's the kind of thing I think we're going to get in spurts possibly this season, is games that you after think, did that actually just happen? In a good way, sometimes in a bad way, but I think more in a good way than in a bad way, because I don't see people just say, like, even spring training. So let's say in spring training, when they were on pace to break the record for winning streak in spring training, people were still saying this team sucks though. And that is just such a lazy thing to say. I think I'll call that lazy. That's a lazy thing to say, that this team sucks, because again, they're at 500. They're not in the garbage. There are teams that have worse odds to win the World Series than this year's Red Sox team.
I hope that you are enjoying my conversation with Lucy, but I just want to take a second to talk to you about Built Bar. So something exciting is coming to Built.com on April 22nd. I don't have all the details yet, but the excitement is real. It's something that you won't want to miss. If you haven't checked out Built Bar or Built.com just yet, it is one of the most delicious tasting protein bars that you can have. It not only tastes like a candy bar, but it's also really good for you. It's filled with low sugar and high protein as well. So mark your calendars and head to built.com on Saturday, April 22nd to be one of the first to discover what all the hype is about. I can't wait to see what this new flavor is. So make sure to use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. I don't know about you. I am super excited. So make sure to tune in to built.com on April 22nd. Now let's get back into my conversation with Lucy. I think a guy like Chris Sale is a perfect example that things can change on a flip of a dime.
Oh,
I mean, last week it was the whole narrative of is Chris Sale done? You know, could they potentially put him in the bullpen when James Paxton comes up? You know, what left does he really have in the tank? And then comes out and 3 hit, 11 strikeouts. And I saw your tweet yesterday. 5.5 strikeouts, like that easily hit. But I'm curious. Do you think it'll probably go up to 8 now for his next start?
It might go up to 7. It might 6 or 7. I would say his next line will be set at 7.5. And I might take that. He has hit the over, on strikeouts in every start so far this season. And no matter what, even his first start, which was really, really tough to watch, that was a avert your eyes type of situation, but he hit the over on strikeouts. And I couldn't believe it. And it was 5.5. And he had 6 strikeouts. And I could not believe my eyes when I saw that he had that many and hit the over. And in the middle of just a barrage of tweets like, oh no, this team is blah, blah, blah. I was just like, I hit the over on strikeouts, like a little green check. I was like, there's a little positivity. We're going to hit the over on 11 strikeouts. So like Cora said post-game last night that this is such a good thing for Sale because he is so hard on himself. And I think Cora was a little worried about him because he was like, yeah, he keeps calling him too, this kid. I always forget that Sale is still in his 20s. Like that, he looks like, isn't he 29? Am I correct on that? How old is Chris Sale? Because, is he 30? I forget, but he's there.
He's still, okay.
And I was 34. What?
Okay.
What? Why did
I was going to say, if he's still in his 20s, holy crap.
That was really weird because I thought, is he younger than I am? I'm 31. And I was like, I was like, wait, is he? No, that was really, never mind. But still, Cora was still calling him a kid. He's 34. That's like, funny. That's not a kid. But yeah, no. So he's just hard on himself. And for him to get that, there's still probably something he was like, oh, I didn't do that right. But he had 11 strikeouts.
Right.
That's got to feel good for Chris Sale to come back and do that because I even tweeted like, when is he ever going to be good again? And last night he was. So it's a nice little, okay, Chris Sale is back. Right. We can all breathe.
And I think too, like, if he allows like 3 earned runs next start, it's gonna be like, all right, here we go again. But no, like, all right, this is his 4th start now. Like when he does that, once he gets up to like 20 or 15, hopefully he gets there. Knock on wood. But like that's when there's a sample size to actually start saying, all right, now there's an issue, and we could potentially get an Eduardo Rodriguez type back and forth or Nick Pivetta type back and forth. Hopefully not, but at the same time, if he's on. He's on. And I feel like, especially with how a lot of these pitchers have overachieved at some points, especially in the rotation. I mean, one thing that going into this season with how the rotation looked, I mean, you brought up the record already, more wins than they had last year in April. I mean, this rotation performed way better than most expected with the amount of limited viable depth that they had to begin the season.
Well, that's the thing too, is before the season started, I thought this team is going to defy so many expectations and surprise a lot of people. Yeah. But I think it's surprising people, but they're still like, well, this team sucks. And again, it's so early in the season, but so far, this, I would say, is a better team than most expected them to be. I don't think many people expected them to have 9 wins. I think they expected them to have like 2 or 3 and maybe none, but now they have almost 10. Let's say 10 tonight. Let's say Kluber, knock on wood, does okay. But I think this rotation starting opening day was not a great start and the vibes were not high. And I was one of those people that was very disappointed, I would say, that Sale did not start opening day. But then Sale makes his first start and you realize probably why. Because Alex Cora is smart, and he probably knew that he did not want Sale absolutely bombing on opening day. And also I think because he thought, okay, Sale is so hard on himself, let's take some pressure off of him.
It was also his birthday too.
And it was his birthday. How can we forget? That's why I was like, wait, how old is he? Because I remember looking that up and for some reason equating that to being 29. Don't know. Whatever. But so that was his birthday. So I think he just wanted to enjoy the day as like a person on his birthday. Yeah, sure. Take your birthday off. That's okay. But as someone who does that every year, the day after Christmas is my birthday. So of course I take it off, but it's a little different. But yeah, no, I think you should take your birthday off, but that's another discussion.
I agree. And, I think with a lot of these players too, it's so easy to look way too into the small sample size. We talked about it with Sale, but you could also say the same thing, about Yoshida, about Christian Arroyo, from what I saw today with Enmanuel Valdez being called up, which I was super excited to see him get the call. Do I think he's ready from what I've seen in Worcester thus far? No, I do not. But I find it very fascinating that right when you see another guy potentially get an opportunity to fill in for a guy in Christian Arroyo who isn't placed on the injured list, but he was injured over these last few days or, had not been playing. Fans are just so easy to be like, all right, this guy sucks. I never want to see him on the field again. He's not an everyday player, but give him more of a chance than that.
Right, exactly. Like I think that's the initial reaction is because you want this team to be good, but then you see that and you're like immediately like get him off this team. Fire this guy into the sun. No, we give him a chance like we're giving Chris Sale a chance. Like, of course, we're giving Chris Sale a chance, but untested players still give them a chance because I think at the end of the day, a saying is used too much, but whatever. I think this is in theory a bridge year to some, and I don't want to think of it as a bridge year. I want this to be I go in with expectations low and you won't be disappointed. So bridge year, but you can win a World Series in a bridge year. Why not?
Well, because the reason why I was laughing is because listening to the Name Redacted podcast like last week, like Tyler was talking about how everybody went up in arms when he called it a bridge year. It's just like I thought we were all in like this sort of same like understanding with that.
I thought we were all in the same boat going under that bridge. I think we all like we all understand that we're not like when I say yes, they're going to win the World Series, that's as high as you could hope for. So sure. But would I be completely surprised if they don't? Of course not. Of course I would not be shocked if they maybe if they're just a wild card team, let's say, or if they don't make it to the playoffs at all. Of course I would not be shocked. But if you can hope for that. And then if a player for one day is not good, of course, you're not going to say, okay, get him off this team. But it's a year because you have that advantage of it being a bridge year. You can bring guys up like Valdez and give them a chance, just see how they do. And I don't think it's going to be.
Who did you say?
Who?
Did you just say Bogarts?
Valdez.
Oh, Valdez. Okay.
Yes,
I heard Bogarts and I was like, all right.
Well, I think we all hear Bogarts because in our hearts, he's still around. No, Valdez. Bring him up. If you bring guys like Bogarts back, I think, you have a chance. I think, no, if you bring guys up like Valdez and then you can give them a chance, see how they do. I don't think by all accounts he's going to be up for that long. But it's kind of interesting. You see it, you look at the guy and he looks so happy. And you're like, I can't wait to see this guy play. This is going to be fun.
And he's got, Juan Soto stands too. Love it all.
Watch this guy, maybe stay up here a little bit. You never know.
And, that also gives like a chance for, Jarren Duran to get, in my opinion, his final shot. And we've already seen him play very, very well in his last two games of playing. And I feel like, this is a time for Duran, Christian Arroyo, and also some of these younger guys as well, like Bayo and Cassis. And you could even put Yoshida in this boat to get used to playing on a major league roster and against major league competition regularly. And I feel like, especially with the transition off season that this team had, this is the year where you figure out what you have. And then this next off season is when you really, really start to plan for competing for a World Series in 2024 and 2025. Because in my mind, if you realistically don't have those 2 years in your mind of when this team is legitimately going to contend, you're just being delusional.
Exactly. And I mean, let's say it's a drought. Let's call it a drought, a World Series drought. And I think fans are itching. It's
Yeah.
only been like half a decade, which
That's
is
why
a
I'm
long
laughing.
time. That's
Yeah.
a long time to have
Yeah.
not won a World Series around here, especially in your lifetime. It's all you
Yeah.
remember is winning. And I mean, that's barely all I
We
remember
just
too.
like winning.
Yeah, there you go. And stay positive and stay strong. And yes, and keep winning. Hashtag winning. Thank you,
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen, for that. But I think that fans are itching for that. So it's got to happen soon. It won't be. I don't think it will be 86 years again, but I think it'll be like maybe this year, or like next year, something like that.
I hope that you are enjoying my conversation with Lucy, but I just want to take a second to talk to you about eBay Motors. So, for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle, and every part needs to fit just right. So, the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay's guarantee fit, you can be sure every part that you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only, exclusions may apply. Now let's get back into my conversation, Lucy. Well, I think too, like I feel like what a lot of fans, and I want this too. I would love to have a team that will bulldoze down other opposing teams, kind of like a Mets or like a Padres, like a super team. Like that'd be amazing. But at the same time, and you could even look at the Dodgers as an example last year, winning 111 games. Yes, it's great to be able to have those teams, but are those generally the teams that win it at the end? Not always. And I feel like having those expectations going into the season and then just being so disappointed at the end of the year that you had this powerhouse that couldn't ultimately win it. And I feel like having an underdog type of team like we saw in 2013, like we saw in 2021, makes it even more fun to watch those big games.
Exactly. And when you think about the teams, the Red Sox teams that have won the World Series in the past couple decades, '04, no one really expected that. I mean, Schilling came in to
Yeah.
win a World Series, but did people coming off of 2003 think that they were going to do it? They were underdogs every year, basically, like 2018, 2013. They kind of came out of 2007 a little bit, came
Mm-hmm.
out of nowhere. They were never you think about teams like the Astros a couple years ago, and they're a team that's like, okay, that's a powerhouse. Or like every year, the teams like the Padres, the Astros, and the Dodgers, I guess they're like powerhouses. And
Mm-hmm.
then the Red Sox have never, after 2004, I guess people are like, okay, yeah, they're good, but it's never been that kind of elite powerhouse,
Right.
kind of like the Patriots of football kind of thing, or
Mm-hmm.
the Patriots of baseball have never really been the Red Sox in a sense. And it's years like, say, this year where they are counted out that they surprise a lot of people.
And I feel like as well, one thing that Lauren and I talked about going into the season with this team, things had to go right. And obviously early on, specifically with injuries, things haven't gone right, specifically with those. But you're starting to see different guys come up huge that you didn't really expect, like a Cutter Crawford, like a Josh Winkowski. And I feel like the more that we see those guys be able to come up big in those clutch situations, that only makes it not only better for the organization for this season, but also down the line as well, because those guys are starting to really cement themselves, not only, like I said, in this year, but to be a part of this Red Sox team for years to come.
Exactly. And you look at like before he got injured, Adam Duvall was exciting and he
Right.
was ramping up and he was a kind of, you didn't expect him to be, he started to become the total bases king. I would go
Mm,
over on total bases on him every single night and he would hit it. But now that's disappointing. But it's guys like that can't wait for him to return. But it's guys like that the surprises, that's the most fun. And
mhm.
that's, I would say, look for Cassis to break out too, because I can't wait.
I
He is
hope
the
so.
most intriguing player to me right now. I know his batting average is not great. And his defense, though, he has to handle a lot of things defensively that are it's tricky plays that he has to make, and he does it.
Mhm.
So he's also just an intriguing character. So I would look for him to break out, hopefully, this season.
I hope so, because I mean, when I met him a few times down in Worcester, he was honestly the most mature guy
Right.
that of a prospect pedigree that I had ever met, and I think too, people who just figured out that he was a quirky guy right when he got called up, like, weren't paying attention, I guess, because like I had so many conversations, and maybe this is just because I had that access and I was able to watch him in Worcester a lot. He was just a quirky guy, and I think that's what makes him who he is at the end of the day, and brings more energy and personality into the clubhouse rather than not. And I think as well, with Cassis, he just needs to get into a groove, and
Yeah.
you see that frustration that he has when he strikes out 4 times on Tuesday, but then you see him draw that huge walk in that big situation. And I feel like, especially since Duvall got injured, all fans have just been yearning for is somebody be that spark plug outside of Rafael Devers and somebody else to contribute. And it's nice, Verdugo's been able to do it consistently, but we're starting to see different guys like Turner be able to come up big. And who knows what what will ultimately happen when Yoshida gets that spark. You could say the same thing with Cassis as well. But once these guys start to get in that groove of playing every single day and start to go through those roller coasters, which ultimately happens in 162. I mean, I think this offense could be a lot better than what we've even seen in a small sample size.
Yes, and I think we should all have the energy of Cassis when he walked and he screamed. That's the energy we have to have.
Yeah.
The let's go energy that he had there. That's going to be little snippets of sound bites for the season that I think at the end we can look back on. I think about this, I'm telling you, every single day of my life, the mic'd up sound of that the Red Sox tweeted out when Rafi was mic'd up in spring training. And he's just speaking, like just free thoughts. Like he just goes, Rafi. And then he's like running. He's like, you slow, bro. That sound, like that's when I thought, okay, there's something special about this team. And then you get the Cassis screaming sound. And then I think also Verdugo last night on his post-game interview when he swore twice. I think that a collection of this sound, you look at that and you're like, this team has chemistry. This team is exciting. And I think on the field, that's all you need. And they're winning games. So I think altogether, there really is just something about this team.
I agree. We actually did an episode right after that. Who do you think will win a race, Verdugo or Devers? And it was just so fun to like be able to get that sort of lens of like to see those guys' personalities from that angle and from that perspective. But for you looking at the rest of this Twins series, I'm curious if there's anything. I know you got Sox money line tonight, which for people who are listening to this tomorrow, they're like, I either won or lost it. But for these next few games against the Twins, what are you looking at?
Yeah. So again, I think Cassis will have a good series. I just want him to have one good series. And I think Tristan Cassis will have a good series here. Maybe his batting average will go up above 200. That would be great. But I think looking at tonight, Kluber to get his first win with the Red Sox. Really want that for him. That's what I want. And then Red Sox money line all the way through. Let's say you know what? I'm going to go with Jake from yesterday. The Name Redacted podcast and Baseball is Dead producer and extraordinaire. I'm a big fan of Jake. Sweep.
I love it.
Would be fantastic. Just sweep.
I love it. I love it. And all we can keep on doing is just staying positive. And remember, the Red Sox are good and they're going to win the World Series.
There you go.
I love it. Appreciate you coming on and taking the time, Lucy. And for anybody that wants to, support you on all the amazing things that you're doing with BetQL as well as, Audacy Sports, where can they do that?
Oh, thank you. So it is on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Lucille Burdge. Follow me on Instagram at Lucille Burdge as well. TikTok is Lucy Burdge1, that bastard who took Lucille Burdge and Lucy Burdge, both of them. And then betql.com is where you can find all the other stuff that I do.
I hope that you did enjoy my conversation with Lucy Burdge and got a little bit more motivation and excitement surrounding this Red Sox team, especially after that incredible Alex Verdugo walk-off that we saw 2 nights ago. I hope that we're able to feel more of those incredible feelings and excitement about this team throughout this season. But if you want to continue to stay updated on everything regarding the Boston Red Sox, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Red Sox over on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. We post 5 days a week and not only update you about different things that are happening surrounding the team, but also bring on great guests, including people like Lucy as well. But we have a very special guest tomorrow. And for our everydayers, make sure to check out tomorrow's episode because we have Emma Tiedemann, who is the play-by-play broadcaster for the Portland Sea Dogs on, and she talks more about some different players that you should be excited about throughout the Red Sox system, her thoughts currently on the Boston Red Sox team this season, as well as much, much more. So as always, we greatly appreciate everybody making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. So make sure, if you listen every day, to check out that episode tomorrow. Also make sure to follow us over on Twitter. It's LO_Red Sox. You can follow myself as well. It's at Jake Iggy. And also my co-host Lauren is La. 3 laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But we have great content ideas as well as guests planned throughout the rest of this season. So make sure, like I said, to tune in 5 days a week. We'll be posting, and we hope to see you there. But we'll end this episode how we always end it. Keep the faith, stay positive, and let's go Sox. Peace.